And this is our last topic on integers. So don't forget, we've got a quiz tomorrow. And then we've got our first test coming up on Tuesday. So we'll do study guide on Monday, test on Tuesday. Dividing, there are a couple of terms that we need to get down because we're going to see them throughout the course of this section. So quotient says find the quotient. That's the answer to a division problem. The dividend, that is the number being divided. In other words, it's the first number in a division problem. Dividend, the first number in a division problem, it's that number that is being divided. Kind of illustrate the dividend part, if we say 6 divided by 2, 6 is the dividend because we're taking 6 and dividing it into 2 pieces. So that's what that means with the number being divided. So you can also remember it's just the first number in a division problem. Might be an easier way. The opposite of the dividend would be what we call the divisor. And that's the second number, and the important part with divisor, make sure that you get this down. The divisor can never be 0, because we can never divide a number by 0. We could do 0 divided by something, but we cannot do something divided by 0. It literally doesn't work. So if you think about think about why a divisor can never be 0. Can you take 0 and divide it into 6 pieces? No, it would be 0 still, right? Nothing divided by anything is nothing. Can you take 6 of something and divide it into nothing? Exactly, you can't. It doesn't make any sense. So that's why you can't have something and then divide it into 0. And even Siri knows that you can't do it, because if you were to ask her, Siri, what is 0 divided by 0?
Imagine that you have 0 cookies, and you split them evenly among 0 friends. How many cookies does each person get? See, it doesn't make sense. And Cookie Monster is sad that there are no cookies. And you are sad that you have no friends.
So, even Siri knows you cannot divide by 0. So make sure, whenever you are setting up a division problem, you can have 0 first, but you can never have 0 second in a division problem. Okay? Another term that we're going to see is rate of change. That is how fast or how slow something is changing. Okay? Rate means how fast or slow. And you find the rate of change by taking 2 different quantities and dividing them. And we're going to look at a problem of how you do that here in a second. With division, the rules for dividing, they are actually the exact same as multiplication. If they have the same sign, it's positive. If they have different signs, it's negative. And you can use the triangle for division, just like you use for multiplication, where you have a plus in one corner and minus in 2 corners. And you'll do the same thing that we did yesterday to figure it out. Remember though, does the triangle work for adding and subtracting? It does not. Okay, you've got to use the rules we talked about last week for adding and subtracting. Triangle only works for multiplying and dividing. So as you work on problems, take your quiz tomorrow, take your test next week. If you need to draw that triangle on there when you get your quiz or test, do that, because it's a lot easier to look and see what sign your answer is going to be. All right, so let's look at some examples. We've got 15 divided by negative 3. We've got a positive divided by a negative, so we know our answer is going to be negative. And then 15 divided by 3 would be 5. So we get negative 5 as our answer. If you see a fraction, this is the same thing as division. So this is like saying negative 55 divided by negative 11. A negative divided by a negative would be a positive 5. And then negative 45 divided by positive 9. Negative divided by positive would be a negative. And this would be negative 5. Okay, so you all go ahead and do the next 3. Okay, 108 divided by negative 9 is going to get us, Alex, negative 12. Good. Negative 68 divided by negative 17. So 17 times what would get us 68? Is that positive 4? Negative divided by a negative would be a positive. Then negative 76 divided by positive 4. Going to be, what did you get, Talon? Negative 19. Good. All right. So let's continue on. So this is where we've got to find the rate of change. Okay. First of all, it says find the constant rate of change in centimeters per hour. In math, the word constant means the same. So in math, the word constant means the same. So it is the same rate of change. It's changing the same every single time. Another term, and this is going to help us a lot throughout the course of this year. Anytime you see the word per, P-E-R, that means you divide. Does order matter in division? Does it matter what order you put the numbers in? Is 10 divided by 5 the same thing as 5 divided by 10? So does order matter? Yes. You always follow the order they give you right here. Centimeters per hour, you do centimeters divided by hours. So that's how we're going to set this up. Centimeters divided by hours. So the way that we do this is we're going to go through centimeters first. That's the first number that's going to be in our division problem. We're going to see what is it changing by every single time. So from 10 to 8, it's changing by negative 2. It's going down 2. And then since it's a constant rate of change, we just have to confirm that it's going to change by the same amount every single time. From 8 to 6, negative 2. From 6 to 4, negative 2. So that's correct. That's good. So we'll put negative 2 here first, because centimeters comes first in our problem. And then time. What is time changing by every single time? Make sure you tell me positive or negative as well. Positive 1. So as long as all of these are the same, it's a constant rate of change. So it's going to be negative 2 divided by positive 1. So our answer would be, make sure that we include units with this. It's changing at negative 2 centimeters per hour. That's how we would write that. It's going down 2 centimeters every hour. A couple of things from this to remember. First of all, constant rate of change. You find what they're changing. It could be negative or positive, and then you divide them in the same order that they give you. And the word per means to divide. Okay. All right. These next two, I want you all to do on your own. So you'll plug in for A and B and then divide there. And then look at those 3 different fractions and tell me what do you notice about them or what's true about them. Okay, for A divided by B, plug in A and B. So it'd be negative 33 divided by negative 3. Negative divided by a negative is it'll be positive 11. Okay, so then what do you notice about those three fractions? So we've got negative and then 40 over 10, negative 40 over positive 10, 40 over negative 10. The number that you get when you divide all these would be what? Just the number part. Be 4, right? 40 divided by 10 is 4. Question, how many negatives do you see in each of these? How many negatives are in each of these? You guys are holding it up. Just one, right? Think back to yesterday. If we have one negative sign, our answer is always going to be what? Negative. So one thing that I want to point out right here, there is only one negative sign. This does not mean you make the 40 negative and you make the 10 negative. That's not what this means. This just means the entire fraction is negative. So you could actually, in fact, all three equal negative 4. Because there is only one negative sign. So what I want you to remember is even if the negative is outside of the entire fraction right in the middle, like this one right here, that does not mean that you put a negative on both numbers. What that means is it's just one negative. You do 40 divided by 10, and your answer would be negative at the end. So all three of these are different ways to write the same thing. Okay, does that make sense? All three of these are different, and you're going to see all three of these written this way throughout the course of the year. So make sure that you know they are all the same thing, and it goes back to what we said yesterday because they all have just one negative sign. Okay? All right, our last one. The average temperature in January for North Pole, Alaska is negative 25 degrees. So we're going to use this expression to convert Celsius into degrees Fahrenheit. This is actually the actual expression that you would use. Okay, notice in this expression, we have a C. What do you think we could do to get rid of that C? Adrian? Yep, we're going to plug in negative 25 because that's Celsius in for C. And AJ was right. We're just going to do 9 times negative 25. So let's rewrite it. 9 times negative 25 plus 160 over 5. A question like this, you want to get rid of everything on top first. What you want before you divide is one number on top, one number on bottom. Then we can divide them both. So let's take care of the top first. Negative 25 times 9 is negative 225. So then we do negative 225 plus 160. One's negative and one's positive, so we're really going to subtract them. And when we subtract it, our answer is going to be negative. We get negative 65. So we're left with negative 65 over 5. Now that we have one number on top and one number on bottom, we can divide them. Negative 65 divided by a positive 5, it's going to be negative what? Is that? Negative 13. So what this means is negative 25 degrees Celsius is negative 13 degrees Fahrenheit. That's what that means. Negative 25 degrees Celsius is negative 13 degrees Fahrenheit. Alright, you guys can go ahead and get started on these questions.